Welcome back, my name is Benji, the new sports director of the ZHQ Ravens. Before we begin, this is episode 2 of a series, so if you have not yet seen episode 1, go check it out. Anyway, last episode we conquered our first race day. We had a parkour that was quite hilly, lots of intermediate sprints, lots of points to be gained, an uphill finish, and in the end it actually was quite a good race for us. We got 6th out of 16 teams, so I'm a proud DS, that's for certain. Now with 1 race down and 5 races to go, there's still a lot of work to be done, especially today knowing that there's something entirely different on our menu today. We're doing our first team time trial on Zwift, and there's one problem. I have no clue how team time trials work on Zwift, so I'll have to do some research. Before I do that though, let's talk about the team. This was our team for last week's race, but for many people, racing every single week for 6 weeks is quite difficult to plan into their personal schedule. As a consequence, the Zwift Racing League has 12 allowed roster spots for each team. Obviously, only 6 of those riders can be used every single race. When it comes to our lovely Ravens, our lineup for race day 2 will be slightly different compared to race day 1. We have 2 riders that can't compete this week, that is Daniel Agello and Chris Snook. The first replacement of the 2 is a fellow Belgian. How amazing is that? His name is Ferenc van Houten. Let him introduce himself.
Hello, I'm Ferenc van Houten. I've only been cycling really for a good few years now. My strengths are really the longer efforts, the steady state, and more of the TT probably.
Taking a look at Ferenc's power profile, it basically confirms that a team time trial is a great moment to have him in the team because the longer efforts is what he's good at. Next to Ferenc, we also welcome Steve Beckett to the Ravens Nest. It is simple, Steve's a very strong addition to the team and will definitely be valuable in this team time trial. Next to Ferenc and Steve, we'll have our usual riders in there, James Haywood, Nick Colley, Anders Stevens, and also James Dobson. Now let's talk about team time trials. I've spent countless hours in the last 3 days researching the draft mechanics and the formations in team time trials on Zwift, and I've come to the conclusion that it's quite similar as in real life. Firstly, when it comes to the basics, teams leave the starting pens in 1-minute intervals, so every minute a team kicks off their time trial, and they aim to set the fastest time between the start line and the finish line. Simple as that. However, it's important to note that while you launch with 6 riders, the time of the 4th rider counts at the finish line, so you can lose 2 riders along the way, but you need to finish with 4 riders together to get the optimized time. Now, we know the general principles, but let's talk strategy for a second. What can we do during the parkour to get the most optimal time for the ZHQ Ravens? And it honestly starts at the very beginning. When our team launches, they should try and focus on getting their speed to increase swiftly, but gradually, to make sure that we still are with 6 people after launching. After that, our riders will take turns at the front of the group, riding a certain wattage for X amount of time. In general, we are using the single file strategy here, with all our riders in one line parallel to the road. When rider 1 is at the front, rider 2 is behind rider 1 in his wheel. Meanwhile, rider 3 is behind rider 2 in his wheel. And so it continues. Because rider 2 is in the wheel of rider 1, he doesn't have to put out as much power as rider 1 on his pedals. Therefore, he's technically somewhat recovering. And that's where the advantage lies in this strategy. But how hard will each rider have to ride at the front of the group, and how long will each turn take? That's where it gets a bit complex. We know that a team time trial is a longer effort. We also know that we have the 20-minute power of each of our riders. It is clear that this is not an even playing field within the team. Lightweights like Nick Colley and James Dobson can't put out the same power as the higher weight people like Steve Beckett, Anders, and also James Haywood. In other words, we can't have every rider ride the same exact amount of raw watts. So how do we decide what amount of watts each individual rider has to ride? The first idea was simple, maybe too simple. I was saying, why don't we just let the first rider ride 25% above their own FTP, regardless of who the rider is? But this idea had a serious flaw. If Steve is riding at the front of the group, 25% above his FTP, he'd be riding 395 watts, which means that James Haywood in second position would have to ride 10% above his own FTP just to follow Steve. Meanwhile, Anders would also have to ride above his FTP just to be able to follow in third wheel. And next to that, the rest of the team would barely be recovering throughout this entire process, with Dobson even going above his FTP in last wheel. In other words, with this strategy, Steve Beckett would destroy the team. But my trial and error process brought me onto perhaps a better idea. In an ideal world, the first rider rides above their 20-minute FTP, the second rider basically on his FTP, while the third, the fourth, and the fifth and the sixth rider can recover. So I decided to try that out, and I noticed that if Steve Beckett rides 355 watts at the front, then James Haywood in second wheel would be riding 100% of his FTP, which is what I'm looking at. The thing is, Steve is now only riding 12% above his own FTP at the front, so he's not being used at his full potential, but if we let him go harder, he destroys the team. What can we do about that? That's where the length of the turns comes in. Steve would simply have to do longer turns than the other riders. Everything we just learned eventually resulted to the following battle plan. Steve would be riding 355 watts for 60 seconds, the longest turn of any rider, while the likes of James would ride 365 for 50 seconds, Anders 375 for 40 seconds, Faring 360 for 40 seconds, Nick 325 for 40 seconds. But Dobson will not do a single turn, because even in last position, Dobson would be riding at 100% his FTP, so he'd be dying in the wheel regardless of taking a turn or not. His role will be the tow hook. For example, if someone comes off the front and has trouble connecting back to the back of the group, he's gonna be the man that tries to make sure that the others can connect to the back again. There's one major caveat to this plan. If we apply raw watts for the leading rider throughout a team time trial, every climb that would occur, our team would fall apart because the lighter riders would ride uphill faster, as simple as that. So the solution for that is that the plan we just made is solely for the flat parts of the team time trial. On climbs, we change towards a certain figure in watts per kilo. We, for example, say every rider rides 4.3 watts per kilo for this climb. That way, the weight of the riders is also considered in the equation, and it makes sure that all the riders relatively stick together on the climb. I know, the last 2 minutes of this video have been very in-depth when it comes to math and watts per kilo, but let's go into something more fun. Let's take a look at the parkour. The parkour is 29 kilometers long, starting with a 6-kilometer lead-in, and then we do twice the Greater London flat route on Zwift. The majority of the course is flat. There's some ramps on the route, but you can't really see them on the profile, so let's just do a recon and see what we find. The first noticeable hill came after 3.9 kilometers, still within the lead-in, so here we should watch out and stick together. As expected, at roughly 6 kilometers in, we saw a banner that marked the start of the Greater London flat route, but towards the end of the loop, I did notice another hill, 3 to 5% once again, so again, stick together. Anyway, I decided to end my recon right here, but I did do a small sprint at the end, which was fun. Anyway, we know the basics of team time trials. We planned a strategy that hopefully works out in some shape or form. We've also reconned the parkour, so know where the climbing spots are. I think we're ready for our first team time trial. Let's get started.
3, 2, 1.
There we go, we're off. Let's make sure we are together, and then Steve takes over at the front. Come on, guys. Let's do this. Steve, 355 for a minute.
Benji, let me know when everyone's on.
Everybody is on.
Okay, I'll go.
3, 2, 1. It's your turn, James. 365. Come on, man. At 3.8 kilometers, there's a bit of an uphill section at 3%. We try and stay together on those sections, eh? 3.8, this is the climbing area, eh? Let's aim for 4.4.
That's what I'm doing on the flat.
James, a tiny bit too much.
Together over the top. Ease up, James.
Getting to the wheel again. Nice, 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 nice. Keep it up. 365. Our team has just crossed the first intermediate check, and so far, it's been going alright. But we set a really average time, 9th out of 15 teams. Let's see if we can move up a tiny bit. Make sure you guys follow James to the front. James, maybe a tiny bit slower, tiny bit slower. There's a split opening up behind you. And now we can go again, now we can go again. We're in the wheel again. All in the wheel, nice. 5 seconds until Anders takes over. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There we go, Anders. Let's go. 375. Watch out. I think James is having to sprint a lot.
James is going to get dropped.
And he's coming back. He's coming back. No worries, no worries. He's coming back. He's back. He's back. He's back. When you come out of this tunnel is when the hill starts. Let's make sure we got everybody together here. Let's aim for 4.3 watts per kilo, roughly. Everybody's well together. Nice, nice, nice. James, you can start going to the front. And let's have you go 340 at the top, nothing too crazy. And after the corner, you can try and up that towards 350, 360. Everybody's in your wheel. Well done, guys. We're still all together. We've completed the first Greater London flat loop, and we got another time check-in. So let's take a look. We are 8th now out of 15, so we moved one step upwards. That's good news. Good tempo or faster?
Let's hear from the group. Dobson, faster or slower? Just keep it like this.
Ferenc next. 2, 1. Ferenc 360. You can do this. Come on, man. Come on, man. Nick next. 3, 2, 1. Nick 325. 325. This is a climby area, so try and stick together. That's the most important part. Steve in 3, 2, 1. Keep the wheel, keep the wheel, keep the wheel, keep the wheel. Nice, nice, nice. There's the line, there's the line. Almost, almost, almost. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Nice one, nice one, nice one. Over the line.
Dobson, unbelievable. Shout out to Dobson for sticking with us.
Dobson definitely deserves that shout out. So does every single other rider on the team, to be honest. What a ride by the guys. And did it result in a good time? That's the question. We ended up getting 9th out of 15 teams, and I think we could have done a tiny bit better if we had a better strategy in the first place, but that's on me. I think we could have gotten 7th perhaps, because it's only 20 seconds away, and a few tweaks here and there, and for example finishing with 4 instead of 6 riders could have improved our time, but I think we can be happy with this. Could have gone much worse, knowing how much I knew about team time trials on Zwift just a few days ago, so all in all, I think we can be happy about our performance. Let's hear what the guys had to say after the race.
There's not much I can really say about it. It was very hard at the start, it's hard in the middle, and it was extremely hard at the end. So it's a good day out, it's good fun. Nearly died.
We only needed to finish with 4, but we finished with all 6 of us, so a massive team effort. It was quite tough towards the end. I think there's room for improvement in our technique, sticking together, no surging. Hold myself slightly responsible for that one.
When we did our practice, I think we had to wait up a few times. This time we managed to all stick together quite well. There was some alleged surging off the front, so we'll work on that for next time. We've got another TTT in a couple weeks' time. But yeah, it went super well. It was lots of fun.
Good TTT. Yeah, conditions were all right when we went out. I think the early starters got it a bit worse. You know, shame we didn't come under 40, but just over's all right, I think.
Combining the results from race 1 and race 2, we are now 7th in the Zwift Racing League, so I'm really happy about that. In an ideal world, we could step it up to the top 5, but it's gonna be really difficult because those are really good teams. Let's keep up what we're doing, get better every single day, and hopefully we get a great result along the way. Just like last episode, this video was brought to you by Zwift. It honestly makes my and the riding a lot more fun, to be honest. Whether it's training or riding races, it's for all levels, so that's the beauty of it. Anyway, if you do want to give it a try, go to Zwift.com. They've now got a 14-day trial instead of their usual 7-day trial, so take it while you can. Next week, we have a road race once again, not a team time trial, so looking forward to it. I hope you are as well. Thank you very much for the support on the series so far, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.